Fuck it. What? Oh.
Yeah, I don't think I have credits anymore for this. I think you lost. Yeah. Are we live? Are we live?
Yes.
Hey. Hi. What's going on? It's Saturday. Yeah,
Hi,
Saturday
everybody.
morning fun time. I don't know what happened to our intros. It seems to be missing. And I don't care. I don't know how to do the show without my intro. Anyway, I'm just fucking around. Welcome to Saturday morning fun
and
time.
we're all here. It's
Yes, we're all
Saturday
here.
now.
And I'm on my shitty Wi-Fi, shitty walk, and we've got a guest in the house. His name is Tom. There's Tom. Hi, Tom.
Morning.
Tom, this is everybody. Everybody, this is Tom. We've got 5 watching now, but it'll grow a little bit. I lied and said that you were involved with Star Wars. So they'll show up.
That usually scares them away now. What do you mean?
But Tom has worked on some top-notch stuff, man. And he worked on one of my favorite shows. And it was not the Pirates film, even though he did work on those. My favorite thing was the Criminal Minds, man. I love that show.
Yes.
Even despite losing leads all the time, that show was amazing. I mean, Mandy Patinkin, what an asswipe, but he's brilliant on screen.
Oh,
But he's a real fucking tool. You don't have to agree with me, Tom. You don't have to, but you did.
Well, Mandy was before my time on Criminal Minds, but I heard lots of stories.
It's like, man, it's like he had this thing where he would be on a show for a little bit and he'd get real fucking tired of the drudgery of having to show up to work on a regular basis. Oh, episodic TV is regular work? Oh, I didn't know that. And then he'd like find ways to piss people off to fire him or he just quit. But he's fucking brilliant. The guy is like, when you watch him on screen, man, he fucking owns that screen. Mm-hmm. And they say, you know. But you, my friend, welcome to the show. I'm glad you're here again. Yeah, this one actually live. The last time we recorded with you, we now go live, and I'm apt to say just about any fucking crazy thing. You never know what I'm going to say. Keith doesn't know. Well, you heard me, but we've got a really good audience that watches this show, and they're really engaged with the things the kind of guests that we have. And so I'm hoping we're going to get some good questions for you today. I'm not putting any pressure on the audience, but you better fucking be good. That's all I'm saying. You know, we pay good money to stream. But Tom, how long have you worked in the film industry and television industry?
I have been in the movie and television business for over 30 years now. And I've been doing nothing but special effects for the last 25 years.
That's fantastic. And the special effects that you do are, of course, you know, dealing with pyrotechnics, live on set effects.
Yes, everything I do happens right before your very eyes, and it's all practical, physical effects. And pyrotechnics is a part of what I do because the special effects is a broad umbrella that covers a lot of different things.
How many fingers do you still have?
Well, funny you should ask that because amongst pyrotechnicians, this is part of your resume.
To know if you're any good. Yeah, there you go. Mr. Tickle Trunk, $2 super chat, says, "Hi, Tom. We're everybody."
Julie knows.
I'm so glad that Tickle Trunk is here because we missed him when he wasn't around because he's up in Canada where they lost internet for like a while. It was weird. Right. So glad to have you back for your $2 super chat. You get this brand new video that I shared earlier before the show, and now you get to see it. And that is the look Mr. Tickle Trunk has every time he gives money to this channel.
All the videos and
thank you again, Mr. Tickle Trunk. You're amazing. I want to say hi to everybody in the chat. Rough Girl, she's awesome. Bill
Hey,
Barkley, a good friend of this channel too, Mr. TikTok, of course. Let's see who else. Oh, Anima Confusa. I'm not going to say hi to you, Baron, because you're already on the fucking show. I don't care if you're in the chat too.
I just do that to piss you off, Gary.
I know you do. Oh, Salty Trekker is here. What's up, Salty Trekker? Let's see who else has joined us early. Penny is here. That is Dork Knight's mother. She doesn't watch his show. She watches our show, and that's why he's on our show now. So he can say that his mom watches her. Him.
Well, hey,
Yes.
now, wait. What are you talking about? Because now this is technically, I mean, it's not
Yeah,
my
because now
show,
you
but
can
this
say
is-
she watches you. Now
Yeah.
you're on this show.
I was
When she wouldn't watch you when you were on the other show, but now
Yeah.
she'll, because she was always watching our show.
Yeah. Well, they dumped me anyway, so it's all good. It's fine.
Yeah, well, look, it's not the first time I've had sloppy seconds. On somebody.
We're gonna call you Dork Pink Slip. Out the door.
Dork Pink Slip.
Here's your stuff. Your desk
Well,
is
I
clean.
do look good in pink, so it's all good.
But you're an awesome addition to the show anyway, and we love you, Danny.
Thank you.
Kingsport Cal is here from Tennessee. What is
Fuck
up,
that
brother?
guy. Fuck that guy. I'm just
Fuck
kidding.
that guy.
I'm just kidding.
Oh, and the amazing Lord Thoth is here. Hail, Lord Thoth. Who else is joining us? We're getting a lot of comments. Wow, I'm going through all of them. Oh, Decepticon's Cave of Villains is here. What is up? Wow. I'm hoping Dragon is going to be here. Keely Chow is here. Holy smokes. Hi, Keely. Hope you guys came with some questions. And that is it. That is everybody that is here.
Well,
Okay,
Tickle Trunk
another
has two,
$2 super chat to Mr. Tickle Trunk.
and there's
who
another
says-
previous to that.
Oh, okay. Let's do this one first. This looked infected. Also, you ever blow up a guy?
Brazen.
This looks infected.
Business or
as something-
personal?
As a combat medic, I used to get that all the time. And the first time it happened to me, the guy whipped his dick out on me. And he says, "Hey, man, does this look right?" I said, "No, get it out of my face." This isn't
curves
business
left now,
hours. But you ever blow up a guy? Set him on fire? Do anything like that?
I've never actually blown up a person, but I've set plenty of people on fire.
Well, I know because we got that video of you, the guy throwing a Molotov.
Mm-hmm, right?
I got that video, and I'm going to play that here in a minute. But before I do, this one is for you, Mr. Tickle Trunk. This is for all you guys that really support this show. And if you think that I feel the way Chili Palmer feels here, I'm sorry. It's not my fault.
You're squinting like you need glasses. Well, what do you... Look at me.
What?
What I'm thinking is, you're mine. I fucking own you. But what I'm not doing is feeling one way or another about it. You see, you're not a person to me. You're an entry in my book. That's all. You're just a guy who owes me money.
That is a terrible thing to say to contributors, but I love doing it because I know it tickles them. But where's the other one?
Here.
Oh, another question. Tom, hardball questions only here. What is your favorite cheese? Okay, you got to answer.
Oh, Manchego, man, without a doubt.
Manchego. Really? Wait a minute. I don't know what that cheese is.
It's a Spanish cheese.
Holy crap. I'm going to have to go look it up now. I got to go Google it. Is it pretty tasty? Is it a dry cheese?
It's kind of a hard, dry cheese, a little pungent.
Oh, okay.
It's kind of like Parmesan, but better.
But better. Okay, I'm going to check this out. I'm going to have to do that. Thank you. And thank you for your $5 super chat. Again, Mr. Tickle Trunk pretty much supports this show. I don't know why he does, but I love him so much. He's so amazing. And this one is for you on this one. And of course, it's classic Star Trek.
Cry havoc, and let's slip the dogs of war.
There you go. I could play one more. Just one more. Thank you. Where's it at? There it is.
I like you. You have balls.
There you go.
As long as you don't have Talkie Toaster asking if he wants toast. That's what I gotta say.
Thanks again, Mr. Tickle Trunk. What was that last one? Hold on, put that back up. Oh, well, yeah, because he worked on the pirate films, 3 of them. right, Tom?
That wasn't Michael Bay though. I mean,
What, it wasn't? I thought Michael Bay was producer on those.
That's Jerry Bruckheimer.
Yeah.
Oh
No,
shit.
yeah,
Okay. I confuse those two all the time because they're pretty much cut from the same mold.
I did do some miniature pyrotechnics on Armageddon though.
Oh, okay.
Oh shit, you did?
Yeah.
Ooh.
Wasn't dealing directly with Michael Bay because we were a second unit, so we were working
Were you working with the miniature landscapes or miniature vehicles?
It was the specific sequence we were working on was when one of the one of the smaller asteroid chunks is coming through the atmosphere and it hits Hong Kong Harbor, and so we blew up some miniature Chinese junks and then a long dock with a bunch of buildings on it that was destroyed by the shock wave of the meteor chunk coming through.
Wow.
That lost a Chinese audience right there. No wonder why they're mad at us.
Wait, hey Tom, what is the best part of working on Dante's Peak?
Well, let's see. For me, for Dante's Peak was a critical juncture in my movie career because it ended up being my first big special effects show, and it ended up being 7 months of intensive special effects school. Because previous to that, most of my work had been in the lighting end of things, and I was starting to segue into special effects before that. And here's the critical juncture story. It came down to 2 phone calls. 1 week on I think it was on a Wednesday, I got a call from a friend of mine who was a lighting technician. And he said, "Hey, Tom," he goes, "I got a great deal." He goes, "I just got hired to be the lighting technician." He goes, "On the miniature effects unit for the science fiction movie called Starship Troopers." He goes, "I'd love to have you come on as the key grip." He goes, "It's going to be like 6 months worth of work down at Sony ImageWorks." And I'm like, "Wow, cool." And he said, "The guy you need to talk to is out of town this week." And he goes, "But here's his number. Call him Monday morning. Tell him I told you to call, and we'll see if we can make this happen." And I'm like, "Fantastic. Thank you." So I was all excited. It's like 6 months worth of work. Starship Troopers. Cool. 2 days later, I get a call from a special effects guy that I'd done a low budget horror movie with about 6 months before. And he goes, "Hey, Tom, I just got hired to do a bunch of water effects for the miniature unit on this volcano movie called Dante's Peak." He goes, "Love to have you on my crew. It'll be about 6 months worth of work." And I'm like, "Wow, okay. I'll take the special effects movie. Thank you very much." And that changed everything.
Wow. And did you meet my boss? I work because I work for Dale Dye. He was the senior military advisor on that film. Plus, he also plays the full bird colonel at the end of the movie.
Okay.
Did you get to meet him at all?
No, because again, I was working on the miniature effects unit, which was
okay. That's different
from the
away from the actors and shit. Yeah,
photography, right?
Roger that.
And on Dante's Peak, it turned into 7 months of intensive special effects school. I met a lot of really great people that I'm still working with to this day. Dante's Peak, the miniature unit got so big that the unions came in and organized it. So I was able to get into the union on that show. Got my first level of pyrotechnic license on that show. So it was, Dante's Peak was a huge moment in my career.
You became a real boy.
Yes.
That's fantastic, man. By the way, we have a $10. What is that? I'm trying to put it up there. Yeah, $10 super chat. Good morning, all. Can't join this morning yet. He due to laptop issues, but I'm listening in. What a great guest Tom is. Well, there you go. More compliments from our audience, and that is our good friend, the 70s rock fan. He is from Scotland by way of Canada.
And I like that he typed it because we couldn't understand.
Scottish Canadian.
He's Scottish Canadian. He's got that thick accent, like donkey. Or the other one that Mike Myers did. What was that movie? So I Married an Axe Murderer. I love the Scottish dad in that one. He's like, "Heath, your head, it's the size of Sputnik. Seriously, it's got its own gravity." That is the 70s rock fan, good friend of Keith's and mine. And for you, dear sir, I gotta have something for him. Oh, this one's for you, buddy. This one.
Hey, where these stairs go? They go up.
Ooh.
Cheers, mate. Oh my gosh, people are doing some more. Mr.
Yes.
Cookstrunk, with a $5 super chat. Since Gary is bad at introducing people, can you tell us how you started? Maybe run down on your first. You know what? Fuck you, Mr. Tickle Trunk, you son of a bitch. Fucking biting the shit out of me. Anyway, yeah. Maybe a rundown on your first movie or show. You set anyone on fire? Yes, he already answered that one, Tickle Trunk. He has set somebody on fire. Jesus, we're not complete amateurs.
Use your ears, Tickle Trunk. Use them.
But thank you for a $5 super chat. I'm not playing another video. You're just going to get a big thank you from me.
I think he also covered that with Dante's Peak. So
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Tickle Trunk. You rock. So hard.
Dun, dun, dun.
So there you go. What was that? What was the first thing you worked on?
Well, the very first thing I ever worked on, I got my start in the movie and television business in St. Louis, where I'm originally from. Working on I was working for a company that at the time they were the largest producers of industrial and training films in the country. It's called Merritt's Corporation, and I got my start at Merritt's. And my very first job in the industry was working on a series of Pizza Hut training films.
Did you set somebody on fire?
Here we go. Get the pizza out of the oven.
I'm sorry, that question had to be asked when I heard the Pizza Hut.
So no, I started on that. I started as a carpenter building sets, and then became a grip and lighting trainee. And
explain to him what a grip is, because Keith and I know because we work in the industry, but other people might not know.
Well, there's basically there's kind of two complementary departments in the lighting world.
Mm-hmm.
The lighting crew obviously sets the lights, and the actual instruments, and then the grips kind of handle any sort of rigging. If the lights have to be hung from a particular place, they also in charge of rigging the camera, if it's on a dolly, if it's on a crane, or if it's it has to be mounted in some strange place. So grips provide a lot of support, for the lighting crew, but the grips are also kind of the problem solvers on set, because when the director of photography says, it's like, I'd love to have the camera mounted on the side of the dumpster, when the guy throws the stuff in. It's like, okay, we'll handle that. Or it's like, it'd be great if could we get a light hanging off the edge of that building up there that we have no access to? Yeah, we'll work on that. So
We'll find a legal way of doing it.
Yes.
Or illegal.
So, grips handle a lot of different stuff. And that was kind of also where I got my start. And the thing I liked about grip work was the problem solving, when somebody handed me, an odd, obscure request. And it's like, okay, let's figure this out.
And how long did you do that before you started getting into practical effects?
Well, I was working in that field, in that market in St. Louis for about 3 years, and because I had kind of made a career change, because previous to that I'd been an architectural draftsman, and then I got into working on these training films, and it was just like, okay, this is my new career. This is where I should have been all along.
Yeah, and you know what? I actually know how that feels. Like when you first do something that's not normal, and you make money at it, and you go, I want to do this the rest of my life.
Yes. So after working in that market for about 3 years, I decided, oh, okay, this is my new career. And, I could have stayed in St. Louis and probably made a pretty good living. But, I also knew that the opportunities were limited because it was mainly, training films, industrial films, local commercials. Maybe every 2 or 3 years, a movie might come into town. So I decided, it's like, all right, this is what I'm going to do now. I'm going to go where the big boys do it. And so I decided to move to Los Angeles and, try my hand at this whole thing.
No, I
Cool.
totally get that, dude. King Sporkall has a question. Are we going to mention Godzilla 1998? Did you get any grief for it being a flop? No, I don't think that was something you would get grief over. But he says, I think it did okay when it came out. But now everyone talks crap, and that's true. I agree. I think it gets more crap than it deserves. I think that it was a mistake film, but it was a '90s movie, and I enjoyed parts of it.
Yeah,
The mistake of it was called Godzilla.
right.
Yeah, yeah. But what did you do on that film?
I was again, I was working mainly with the miniature effects unit. The great thing about my experience on Godzilla was it was my first time that I got to work with Joe Viscoso. And for those of you who don't know, Joe Viscoso was the miniature effects pyrotechnician for a long time. You might recognize him because he won an Academy Award for Independence Day. And
Is he also the one that some of his early work was on Dukes of Hazzard? Is that him?
Probably. I couldn't.
Because a lot of people don't know that some of the jumps and shit you saw in that show were miniatures.
Right.
Mhm.
Right. So it could very well be because Joe was the guy, and even though Joe's kind of most well known for for his Academy Award for Independence Day, to me, Joe Viscoso will always be the guy that blew up the Death Star.
That is
Nice.
fucking cool. That is fucking cool.
And so that was the first time I got to work with Joe, and I worked with him several other times over the years.
Fantastic. Hey, King Sporkell, thank you for your $5 super chat, man. I want to throw this up here as your welcome and have Tom explain what this photo is.
Well, a very good friend of mine, Ted Smith, known to the world as Evil Ted, another former St. Louisan living in Los Angeles now. Ted builds costumes, props, incredibly talented. Some of you might be familiar with his YouTube channel. He does a lot of stuff, tutorial videos for the cosplay world. Well, in 2003, kind of all the stars aligned, and Ted was able to get the financing to make the movie that he had written the script for a long time. It was called Guardians of the Realm. And I ended up helping Ted on that. I played a variety of roles. I was I helped build the sets. I was the special effects coordinator. I was an actor. I played a part in it. And in this particular scene, that's Lana Peryan, who plays the evil villainess in the movie. And so that's just on the set. We're in
case nobody noticed, she's really fucking hot.
Yes.
I'd surrender. I'd join her side any day. I'm evil now.
All right. I love this picture. Look how young you are there, dude.
Yes.
And you're wearing one of those kilts.
Wearing a utility kilt. Yes.
Utility kilt. I love those things, man.
Yeah.
You were kind of like their poster guy for a while. For the company.
I just one of those things that happened, starting a long time ago. There's on a lot of TV shows and whatnot, the little rituals grow up, and it's just like, wear your favorite funny T-shirt Tuesday or Hawaiian shirt Friday or, whatever, just little things to keep crew morale up. I started the tradition of Kilt Friday. So every Friday I would wear one of my utility kilts to work.
Well, I think that 70s rock fan would love you for that.
Well, I think with all the heat in Las Vegas, Dork needs it.
Right. So yeah, it was like every Friday was Kill Friday, unless I was dealing with large fire or I had to work up on a ladder.
Bill Barkley.
So the real question about that though is, did you go commando?
Well, just to be courteous to my fellow workers, no.
Okay.
Yeah. Nothing worse than sweaty balls.
Yeah, nobody wants to see that shit in the middle of the day.
Exactly. Bill Barkley asks if you've worked on any miniature effects for Terminator 2.
Did not work on Terminator 2. The Terminator 2 miniature effects were done by the Skotak brothers, and I did work on some other projects with them, and they were great guys and fun to work with.
I actually do I have a question for you. So did you always know you wanted to do stuff like this? I mean, when you were a kid, did you find yourself setting up little miniature stuff, like little worlds of your own, or is this something you got into later in life?
Well, it's funny you should mention that. It's like I had always been fascinated by the behind the scenes aspects of movies and television and whatnot, and even kind of before that, it's like I had an interest in magic, and a lot of people say it's like oh, I don't want to know how the magician does it because that'll ruin it. But for me, it didn't ruin it. It's actually once I learned how the trick was done, I had a greater appreciation for it. Just the skill and ingenuity behind it. So I'd always been fascinated by that. Again, the behind the scenes, how it's done aspect. And when I was in junior high, I started experimenting with my own stop motion animation with my little Super 8 camera in my parents' basement.
Nice. Okay. Yeah, that's what I was wondering. Is like when you were a kid, like did you play with Legos or did
Keith,
you
you son of a bitch, stop sending me shit.
Cardboard and things like that.
Yeah, okay. It's like I used to I made my
own.
Made my own accessories.
It's not work for you. You're doing what you love. You're just a giant kid playing still, right?
And again, looking back, it's like everything, so many aspects of my life were leading me to where I ended up. Nice. Halloween was always my favorite, my favorite holiday. I loved making my own Halloween costumes because the ones at the discount stores sucked. I can do way better than that.
Right.
Well, exactly. Hey, Tickle Trunk had another question for you. Didn't Evil Ted do the Guyver movie stuff? His name is so familiar.
Yes. Evil Ted was in the Guyver. He was in the there was a character played by Jimmy Walker and called Stryker.
Yes.
And Stryker transformed into a monster, and when Stryker transformed into a monster, Evil Ted was in the monster suit.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
So he's actually wearing the costume. Did he work on the costume or just the player?
A little of both.
Little both.
Yeah.
Because I like that movie. I'm a big fan of that Guyver movie because we had Mark Hamill in it.
Yes.
And I also like the use of Kendo Aikido in the film.
Yes.
It was really good.
Coincidentally, it's like the Guyver was the very first movie I ever worked on.
Okay.
Nice.
Yeah, it's again through kind of a strange chain of connections. And
so what did you do on that film?
I was a grip on that. I got hired on the grip crew, and and had
sometimes, man, you got to get a grip.
Yeah,
but
again, just a little trivia. There's a transformation sequence in the Guyver where our hero is transforming and like pieces of the Guyver armor are flying in and sticking to his body, and then slowly assembling.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that was all shot in reverse where the armor pieces were on his body and then pulled off, and then they just printed it in reverse. Well, for a lot of the close-up pieces of that where you couldn't see the actor's face for time constraints and whatnot, I ended up being the body double for that just because I was about the same size as the actor. So,
yeah. Now, by the way, Bill was pointing out that he likes your Lost in Space robot back there, but that is not a regular one. That looks like one of the special ones that was either from what are those, the big head ones. because that's an odd looking Lost in Space robot.
Yeah, it's a battery operated toy, and it wasn't a model kit. It took batteries and it would you could flip it on, it would roll and light up. So yeah, its proportions are a little odd. It's not 100%.
How tall is that one?
It's about 10 inches tall.
Okay, I think is that the one that came out in the late 60s?
Not sure. I ended up
because I had one of those when I was a kid. Yeah, those freaking toys are awesome. Let's see, Kingsport Cal, what's your experience working on the Contractor?
I'm not familiar with that project.
Well, there's your answer.
I do got a question. Which do you prefer? Do you like the way things are now with special effects? Or did you kind of prefer it back in the day when there wasn't the whole, we'll fix it with computers in post, which seems to be happening a lot more lately from what I understand?
Right. Good question. The way I look at it is that actually this can be very complementary. And the way I explain it to people, on-set directors, and whatnot, is that there's lots of different tools in the toolbox, and there's not one tool that's appropriate for every job. So sometimes the appropriate tool is to do the effect practically, and sometimes the correct tool is to do it visual effects in post-production. Again, there's no one solution for every problem. The times where it's really complementary is like there's a lot of times where we can do something practically, that's faster and better and gives the visual effects people, good raw materials to work with that they can alter and modify after the fact. And there's also things that we can do now faster and safer because of help with visual effects. One of the good examples of this is way back in the day when we used to fly people on wires. If they were levitating or flying, you'd have to use really, really thin wires, in the hope that the camera wouldn't see it, because it was very, very time consuming and expensive to have an animator go in after the fact and rotoscope all those wires out.
Yeah.
So you'd have to use really, really thin wires, but because they're really thin, they're not very strong. So you have to use a lot of wires to support the weight of a human being. And that takes a lot of time to rig. And then, again, if one of them fails for some reason, then chances are, it's going to overload the rest of them and the rest of them are going to fail. So, with the advent of a lot of visual effects, computer technology, it's become much, much easier and faster and cheaper to do wire removal in post-production. So now if I'm flying somebody on wires, I can fly them on 1/8 inch thick steel cable, that's got a breaking strength of 1,500 pounds. So it's much, much safer. I can fly them on one wire or two at most. So again, easier, faster, safer, and then it's super easy and cheap for them to remove that in post production. And a lot of times, I've had post production guys tell me they said, hit those cables, with some bright orange, fluorescent paint, so it's easier for us to find and remove after the fact. So in that case, it's like that made it better for everybody. It's like we're flying a real human being in 3D space on wires, faster, safer, and then those annoying wires are easily removed later on.
So are you finding that some of the things that you do is helped by the advent of CG?
Yes. And, there was a time...
They were definitely complementary of one another.
They're definitely complementary. And there was a time when CG was first coming out. It was the hot new thing. So it's like, oh yeah, we'll do it like that. We'll do it like that. We'll do it like that. And now slowly people are beginning to, accept the fact that it's like, okay, again, not, this tool is not appropriate for every job.
No, I hear you on that. By the way, What Kingsport Cal was talking about a minute ago is this. It's a movie called The Contractor. I think it's on Amazon, and you are listed as one of the effects guys on this.
Okay. I can explain that now. I did work on some pickup shots and some reshoots for that, but at the time all I had was the working title, which was called Violence of Action. Well, it was called Violence of Action or Thunder Road, depending on what was on the email.
Yeah, the first one sounded cool. The second one just sounds really like a bad 70s movie.
Yeah, so I never heard what the final outcome of that, so I didn't recognize the name. So yes, my friend JD Street and I, also from St. Louis, longtime special effect colleague, we did about 10 days of reshoots on The Contractor with Chris Pine and Kiefer Sutherland.
Oh, and by the way, that's what I was trying to think of, the Diamond Select robot. I think that's who made that one, Diamond Select.
Oh, okay.
So Bill Barkley, thank you, sir, for remembering that. I couldn't remember. I knew it was one of those collectibles.
I haven't seen that
think-
movie yet. I want to, though. Like The Contractor.
Mm-hmm.
I guess do you go to premiere? Like, I didn't want to put you on the spot and be like, hey, did you see it? And then you say no, but like, just in general, do you like get to go to the premieres of the stuff that you work on? I mean, or do you like doing that kind of thing, or do you see screeners, or are you one of those people like, oh, I can't look at my work? I imagine it's being an artist, you kind of want to look at your stuff so you can, because we're our own worst critics. You're probably like, oh damn, I can do that better next time, or oh man, I wish I'd done that. Or so like, what is all? Sorry, that was like 2 or 3 questions, but
no, that's okay. It's as to premieres, it's yes or no. It's like yes and no. It's like I've been invited to many premieres and went and attended, and there's been also tons that wasn't invited to, didn't know anything about it. I've attended a bunch, and that's always fun. It's always nice to see all those people that you worked with, and then see the finished product, how it all came together. So that's always fun.
I concur. And by the way, somebody mentioned it's just trivia that those were the ones that were used in the original series as miniature versions of the robot that were worshiping him, treating him like a king.
Oh, right. I remember that. Yeah.
And the DC Direct, or the one he was talking about, they remade that one. That's the one that came out in the 60s when I was a kid, and I had walking around my living room. Let's see. Practical should be always supplemented by CG, not replaced by it. Yes, agreed. By the way, Baron has a question for you.
Yeah, I do have a question on that aspect. Growing up myself, correct me if I'm wrong on this one, Gary, but Cinemagic from Starlog, where they always showed how you could do your special effects for your own little films. I always loved reading that. Of course, lights, camera, action. And the one thing that kind of blew me away was, like, they talked about the opening to the Razor's Edge, where you have the train going across. And they say, yeah, that's a special effect. That is not a real train. And someone said earlier that, some of the car jumps with the Dukes of Hazzard were practical models. How much of your work would you say is making things look normal instead of like blowing shit up, the monsters coming in, alien spaceships?
Yeah, the mundane effects. Have you ever done any of that?
Oh, plenty. Again, the term special effects is a broad umbrella, and on the one end, the super exciting, thing is blowing up cars, blowing up buildings, full size miniatures and everything like that. It's like, that's, it's very visual. It's very exciting, but then on the other end of the spectrum, it's like, oh, we have a kitchen set and the sink has to work. It's like, all right, that's the responsibility of the special effects department to plumb the sink. So.
Okay. What would you say is a percentage of making things look normal, like like a train going across like that, or whatever, compared to the other special effects?
Well, again, that's more in the realm of miniature effects. So in my early days of my career, I worked a lot on a lot of miniature effects shoots for a lot of miniature effects companies. And that was and I really enjoyed that, just doing stuff practically, and all the tricks of making something look real, that's not.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah,
Bill Barkley has another thing here. Didn't they use mostly practical effects on Top Gun Maverick? I know some CJ was obviously used.
I can't really answer that. Didn't work on it. Don't know anybody that worked on it. So
Yeah, Bill, stick to things he's worked on. Jesus.
don't have a good sense of that.
You should have worked on it. That's what we have to say.
Thanks, Bill.
I do have another one. I don't know if you heard about this recently, but there's a thing with VFX thread on Reddit basically saying that Marvel's like killing them because they're just making too many demands and they're underpaying them. It's going like, how much truth is there into what those complaints were within the thread? Like, they would require like several different like options for like how a scene would play out, and then just seemingly not pay that well.
That's actually a very good point, and that is right now one of the most underrepresented and abused parts of our industry is the visual effects CG animators, because more and more demands are being put on them, and with unrealistic time frames. So those people in our industry are really getting hammered right now, just because again, a lot of demands and unrealistic time constraints, and they're not being paid well. And actually there's a big movement right now to incorporate that part of the industry into union representation, because they haven't been for years and years and years and years.
I'm shocked to hear that. I thought you guys were part of a union.
Well, again, what I do and visual effects, two different things, two different departments, and they're relatively new, so they haven't been brought into the fold yet.
Okay.
So before we move to the video portion of the show, like we have a portion that's dedicated to videos. I'm making that up. I'm lying. It's never happened. But we're going to do it today with you, Tom, because Tom sent some videos that I want to show. But I have some photos too that I thought maybe you'd like to explain.
Okay.
Like this one.
Well, that was my. I can't remember exactly what year it was, but that was my Christmas card for that year.
Oh God.
It looks like it's right out of the thing.
You don't see the tree because he's lighting the tree up good.
Right. You can't see that I'm wearing a Santa Claus hat. And what led to this picture was, again, I was working with my friend JD Street, and we were hired to do the opening title sequence for Lethal Weapon 4. And what that consisted of was basically a 12-foot by 20-foot photograph of the Warner Brothers logo, with me standing behind it with a flamethrower and shooting flames at it, setting it on fire with the jet of flame coming through it, with the camera on the other side photographing it. So I spent the evening with a flamethrower setting giant photographs on fire.
And now Elon Musk is gonna
there
do
was a
it,
question,
of course.
speaking of flame, did you go to Burning Man?
I haven't been for the last 2 years, because for the last 2 years there wasn't
COVID.
a Burning Man, because of COVID. Yeah.
But what did you think of that? Because I've heard it's actually really dangerous, because that one kid I know died.
Yes,
he went in there.
There was a very unfortunate circumstance where somebody committed suicide by running into the fire on burn night. And that was,
and there's been debate over whether it was suicide or whether he was just intoxicated and or high,
right?
And may have done it that reason. Because but it's tragic no matter what. People need to know Burning Man is fucking dangerous. Stay back. But it is beautiful to watch when that thing starts. Were you involved with the burning?
I have been. Previous to 2020, I had been to Burning Man 20 times. I have a lot of friends in the Burning Man community, and I really enjoy it. I get a lot out.
So you're kind of a freak in real life.
Kind of, sort of, yeah. And yes, I've volunteered in various capacities at Burning Man. I've worked on the big burn. I've worked on smaller burns. And Gary, something you and I share, it's like I'm also an EMT, an emergency medical technician. So I volunteer with the emergency medical services staff at Burning Man periodically.
It's something that it really does come into use when you've got idiots for friends.
Yes.
But here's another photo. There you go. I think somebody wants to be a pirate.
Yes, that's in the below decks on the Black Pearl on the set of Pirates of the Caribbean 2 and 3, because the way they shot Pirates 2 and 3 is they shot all of the out on the ocean stuff with all the ships and everything. They shot this was all shot down in the Bahamas. And so they shot everything for 2 and 3 at the same time down in the Bahamas. They were down
now, this looks like a production deck, because over on the right-hand side are the monitors, and I'm assuming that's where they would sit and watch the video monitor of the shot.
Mm-hmm. I wouldn't swear to that, but I think what you're seeing over to the right is just a porthole, and you're just seeing.
Oh, is that what that is?
Right,
Looks like a cannon hanging out of there. Looks like a cannon.
Oh, is that what that? Oh, wait, it is.
I think that is a cannon sticking out.
I thought it was a seat, but yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah.
And then there's this photo.
Mm-hmm. And that's me with a bunch of the Chinese pirates, because in Pirates 3 there was the whole gathering confederation of all the different pirates from all over the world.
Right. That's pretty cool. And then there's this picture.
That's the kilted special effects crew on the TV show Jericho.
Hey, what was that like? How long did you get to work on that?
Jericho, interesting story. It ran for one season and then didn't get picked up, but then there was such a huge fan backlash that they did come back and then do a short season 2. Unfortunately, 80% of the crew that was on Jericho had moved on to another show with the same producers and whatnot. So I wasn't working full time on the second season of Jericho. I came back for a couple episodes because there was some big pyro involved in that.
That was the
and Penny wants to know what you did on Pirates of the Caribbean.
I was a on-set special effects technician. So I was working, with First Unit down in the Bahamas. I was down in the Bahamas for 4 months, and I was doing all kinds of stuff.
Anything that went boom.
Doing things that went boom. Smoke, fog, rain. Breakaways, you name it, across the board. Ships on fire, breaking a ship in half, all kinds of stuff.
Yeah. Now I have something in common with you too. Is I've done some practical effects on film. I worked on albino farm, and I worked on a little piece of shit sci-fi film called Alien versus Hunter. And in that one, you can see my car in the junkyard scene, and my car looks like part of the junkyard. I thought that was funny.
I was gonna say,
awesome.
But anyway, you had a question. Was there? Oh no, it was a statement from our in-house Scotsman. One kilt to rule them all.
Now, who was the holdout in that picture? I saw 3 guys in kilts and 1 in shorts.
Yeah, the guy with khaki shorts, he doesn't count.
Well, that was our boss, JD Street. But JD was a regular participant in Kilt Friday. It was just that particular day he didn't have his kilt on. But at one point there is a picture where all of us were wearing our kilts. We took some cool pictures, and we sent it into the Utilikilts website, and we were on the cover of their newsletter that month.
Yeah.
So hey, I have a question. A friend of mine texted me about Burning Man.
Mm-hmm.
She wants to know, and I'm guessing I don't really know what this means, but she goes, what is your burner name? So do you guys have aliases when you're out there? Like you don't say who you really are? Is that what that is? Or
Well, it's just it's just kind of a custom that's grown up. It's called it's called your playa name.
your playa name? Okay.
Yeah, because Burning Man, the actual site is a dry lake bed. And,
yeah, no, I'm really familiar. I have a ton of friends who do
Mhm.
it. I've never done it just because when they show me pictures or explain the experience to me, it does not sound like a pleasant experience. It does not like, I'm the kind of guy when I go camping, I go what do they call it? Glamping. You know what I mean? Like I'm not it just I don't know, man, so yeah, sorry, I'm rambling here, but what I don't know why she doesn't just ask in the chat. But so are you willing to share your burner name, or is that like a private thing?
On my one of my burner nickname and kind of nickname across other other platforms is I'm known as the Western Devil, and there's a story behind
The
that.
Western Devil.
It has something to do with a fire and a pitchfork and a bunch of ladies screaming. That's all I'm saying. No.
Sounds like fun.
Well, here's the story how I ended up as the Western Devil.
Right.
In 1999, myself and two of my special effects colleagues did a movie in China. We were shooting outside of Shanghai for about 3 months. And so in the first couple of weeks while we were there, I was talking to one of our translators. And I asked him, I said, hey, if I write my name down, I said, would you write it for me in Chinese so I can put it in I was keeping a little journal of this whole adventure.
Uh-huh.
He goes, yeah, certainly. He goes, I'll tell you if it means anything, in Chinese, just phonetically. I'm like, okay. So I write my name, Tom Seymour, and he looks at it and he starts writing it and he goes, Tom, he goes, no, it doesn't mean anything. And then he's like staring kind of intently and he goes, how do you say your last name? And I said, Seymour. And he goes, oh, and he gets this funny look on his face. And I'm like, okay, great. This means like dirty socks or smelly toilet or something like that. And I said, what does it mean? And he goes, more, means ghost or devil. And he goes, and C is a direction. He goes to the west. And he goes, and he looks at me, he goes, you are Western Devil. And I'm like, so be it.
Nice. Well, that's cool.
I mean,
So I told her that, and then she asked about a festival called Everywin, and if you heard about it, because they're the only ones that have received a permit from the BLM, and it's kind of a big deal. Do you know anything about this?
I've heard of it. I don't know that much about it.
Okay.
I do know that Burning Man is happening this year, so it's back up and running.
Yeah.
But going back to the China thing, because I don't want to go off that because I have a photo.
Mm-hmm.
And that was in China.
That's actually that photo is actually in Tibet. Because
all right, Keith, you're no longer allowed to send me images. You son of a bitch. He sent me that and said, Chinese picture. You don't know the difference between Tibet and China, you ignorant bastard. No, I'm just kidding. I don't care.
Yeah.
But that's a cool photo of you. That's in Tibet, huh?
Yes. After we finished shooting, the three of us stayed and for like another almost a month and just went sightseeing in China. And one of the things I'd always been fascinated by Tibet since I read an autobiography by a Tibetan monk a long, long time ago. And so when this set of circumstances ended up that I, found myself in China, it was just like, okay, I'm halfway across the world. I've never been closer to Tibet. It's like, if this is ever going to happen, it's going to happen now.
Right.
So the three of us got together and made that happen. And that was part of our
so cool
sightseeing tours. We went to Tibet for 8 days.
Nice.
With the name of the Western Devil, why don't you have that wonderful mustache and goatee? Come on, you got to keep that on there.
No, he's had that.
That name.
Yeah, that's what he's saying. He's saying, why doesn't he still have it? Why is he all clean shaven today?
Oh, because he wanted to look nice for the girls on watching the show, like Sherry,
Sherry
Penny. But I did want to pop this up here. Kingsport Call asked the question that Martin starred for me to make sure that you got to see it. Did Tom ever get to talk to RDJ on the set of Kiss Kiss Bang Bang?
I did, yes. Got to interact with Robert Downey Jr. On several occasions, and very nice man, very personable. At that time, Robert, it was when we started that project, there was a lot of anxiety and tension because Robert Downey Jr. had just got out of rehab. So everybody was just like, "Ooh, how is he going to be? You know, is he going to be okay? Is this going to just be a nightmare?" And also, you know, he was acting alongside of Val Kilmer, who's has a reputation of being a problem child as well.
I've actually had to deal with him on something because I work for Dale,
Mhm.
and the whole day of shooting got fucked up because he wouldn't come out of his trailer.
I always hate hearing these stories. So was Val Kilmer?
Yeah, I'm a huge Val
difficult
Kilmer
on
fan. I
your
still am.
side as
But
well?
I'm like, he can be a real fucking pain in the ass.
I hate hearing
Well-
that. You know.
Well, didn't you also work with him on Spartan?
Yes, coincidentally,
Great fucking movie.
yeah, JD and I did 3 movies with Val Kilmer over a 2-year period.
What was the third one?
We did a movie called Wonderland.
Mhm.
Oh my god, that's another great fucking film. I didn't know you worked.
What
on
kind of
that one.
special? Because when I was researching for your,
He had to do the penis for John Holmes.
That was the makeup department, but
yeah. When I was doing research, so like,
Yeah, but when
I was
it
like, what kind of
explodes-
special effects do you do on Kiss Kiss Bang Bang? So I'm just wondering, like, what exactly? Because that didn't like screen. Like, it's been a while since I've seen it.
Well,
but it
this
doesn't
actually-
scream special effects. to
Danny,
me.
this actually leads back to a question somebody asked earlier that I wanted to get in there is explaining the difference between the effects, because what you do as far as practical on-set effects versus visual effects, on-set or practical visual effects.
Oh, hey, that's salty.
Somebody wanted to know what the difference was.
sure. Well, let me respond to that, and then I'll tell you a little bit about Kiss Kiss Bang Bang. Again, special effects. For a long time there was just the title or the department just called special effects because there wasn't computer graphics or anything like that.
Right.
So special effects were just things that happened on set, practically, and then as with the advent of digital technology and whatnot, a lot of things then started getting shifted into the post-production end of things. So when you see the term visual effects, that usually means something that's done in the editing room, in post-production, computer graphics, compositing or something like that. And then when you see special effects, that almost always means practical, real-time, right before your very eyes, things that happen on camera.
Yeah, and going before you start the story, one example of the difference of things is like you see a guy with the gun. The armorer is the guy who handles the gun.
Correct.
But when the bullet strikes hit next to him, that's what you guys do.
Correct.
And so that's where you see the two working in union with each other.
Okay.
So
okay.
let's go on to Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, because I do want to hear more of that.
Okay. Well, on Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, we did several different things. Let's see. We did. There's a scene where a car gets driven off of an embankment into a lake and then sinks. And I believe Val Kilmer is shooting at it as it sinks. Our job was to basically turn we took a real car, took the engine out of it, made some modifications to the body and installed tanks and valves into it, and basically turned it into a submarine. So we put a ballast tank in it so we could make it sink and rise on cue. So we had one car that a stuntman drove into the lake, and then the other car, the duplicate car, was then being controlled by us, so we could make it rise and sink on command.
That's
How
awesome.
close-
What do you
how
prefer?
close-
Sorry. Go ahead, Baron.
I was going to ask, how close do you work with stuntmen in these type of situations? I mean, is there a lot of work together on these films?
Yes, there's a lot of collaboration between all departments. Stunts and effects usually work very closely, hand in hand. Depending on what's going on, if there's breakaway props, or furniture or something like that, we create that the stuntmen smash over each other's heads, or somebody gets thrown through a wall or something like that. So there's a lot of coordination between our departments. If a stuntman gets set on fire, it's like we're the ones setting him on fire and then putting him out. If there's a car crash, a lot of times we'll be in charge of like building a steel cage and reinforcing the inside of the car to protect the stunt driver.
I'm seeing a theme here with the Burning Man and what you do for a living. Anyway,
right.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
And then there's
I was
also
gonna say the same thing.
and then there's also collaboration with other departments, like the prop department, like you just pointed out a second ago. It's like if there's firearms on set, the armorer, which is part of the prop department, handles all of that. Now, whatever the effect of the gunshots is, whether it's a bullet hole in a window or a bullet hole in a wall or a bullet hole in a person, that's our department. So there's a lot of coordination between those two departments. Same thing, if a person is getting shot and we're putting, blood hits on them, then we're collaborating with the wardrobe department. It's like, all right, what is this character, wearing? And it's like, can we see it ahead of time so, we can, figure out the best way to do this. So there's a collaboration with lots of different departments, on set.
So what's your favorite? What do you prefer doing, or like, what's your favorite, like doing like the miniature type stuff and dealing with the toys, or dealing with people and things and, like on set and stuff like that?
Well, it's like, unfortunately it's like the miniature effects has kind of fallen out of favor, because a lot of it's been replaced, by computer graphics and visual effects.
Unfortunately,
so we don't do nearly as much miniature effects as.
And yet they look so cool when you do them.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
And that's unfortunate because those were a lot of fun and interesting to do, because it was interesting problem solving.
Mm-hmm.
Excuse me.
So do you miss it? Was it your favorite, or is it like?
It's like I do miss it because again it was another completely different aspect of what we do, and so I miss certain parts of that, but I still enjoy real time full size stuff as well. My very favorite things to do is I really like any kind of rigging that has to do with pulleys and ropes and cables, flying people on wires or flying objects, pulling things. I'm really fascinated by that. And I like fire,
Yeah, I knew you had to say fire. I knew fire was
I really
coming.
enjoy doing.
You just
fire.
really like setting people on fire.
Yeah,
let's be
you're like
honest.
Beavis. Fire.
Well,
fire.
what I found over the years, just my personal experience, and just personally, and then also observing on set, is that fire has triggers very primal reactions in people, because everybody, there's very few people that don't enjoy sitting around a campfire, at night. There's something
fear or fascination is what I found.
Yeah, on the one hand,
Yeah.
it's like sitting around a campfire is very soothing, because it's
Until you hear crackling and you go, "What was that?"
But then also, large out of control fire, triggers that reptile brain, in people where they're like, "Oh," and so fire is a very powerful thing. Good or bad. It's like if it's on the one hand, it can be used to really set a tone, in a positive way, and on the other hand, it can be used to instill terror as well.
And it's interesting also in writing, it can be used in so many different ways. Through poetry, it could represent emotions, to anger, love, romance, to warfare. There's just so much that the word fire can be used for. But when it comes to film, fire always looks good on screen. And what are your favorite films that have depicted great fire effects in it?
Well,
that you didn't get to work on.
Right. that I didn't get to work on. The most obvious one would be Backdraft.
That's what I.
Oh
yeah.
And
what did you think of Towering Inferno?
It's funny you mentioned that. I watched Towering Inferno just a couple of years ago. Rewatched it and was very impressed. With the work that was done.
They used the actual fire department staff, firefighters,
right?
Over 100 of them in all the shots. There was no less than 40 firefighters for most of the scenes that involved the fire. There was 40 firefighters on the set at all time.
Right.
And it's just
Yeah,
amazing.
Today that would have been CG,
It probably would have been a combination. It would have been practical fire and then visual effects fire as well.
What's another film that you liked that had a lot of pyro in it?
Well, just backtracking real quick, in terms of the movie Backdraft, one of the real life crossovers is my father was a firefighter, and he and I went and saw Backdraft when it came out. And after it was over, I asked him, and I said, "Hey, Dad, what'd you think about that?" And he goes, "Oh, it was great. It was fun. It was, really exciting and everything like that." I said, "How realistic was it?" And he goes, "Well," "if you were ever in fires that big," he goes, "there'd be so much smoke," he goes, "that you'd never be able to see anything." And he said, "But," "I know that wouldn't make for a very exciting movie, just being in a room full of smoke."
Yeah, exactly. Well, I trained to be fire rescue, and the first thing you're taught when going into a house is how to use walls for guides, and always have a check on the guy in front of you, so you never lose contact with him. It's really, you can't see. I had the mask on, I couldn't see shit, and I was relying on that guy in front of me knowing, figuring out where we're supposed to be going. But it's terrifying shit. But I've got some questions, dude, that are stacking up in the starred section that Martin is keeping for me. First one is this one. Bill Barkley wanted to know if you worked on Playboy Hard Bodies, Cyberella, Warhawk PlayStation game, Virus, because your name is apparently associated with these, as well as we know that you worked on Virus, but I'm not sure. Did you work on The Arrival with Charlie Sheen?
Yep. Yes, guilty on all counts.
Okay, we want to hear about Hard Bodies. That's all we want to hear. No.
I want to hear about Virus. Jamie Lee Curtis. Come on now.
Yeah.
Oh hell yeah.
I'll go through this quickly. In my early days, when I first moved to Los Angeles, I was just starting out making connections, so I was taking any job that would come along. So I would work as a production assistant, which is the lowest form of life on set. It's a very entry-level position, but it's a good way to meet people and make connections. And also I was just trying to stay alive. Through that connection, I hooked up with some producers and production coordinators for the Playboy channel, and for about 2 years worked on probably a dozen different projects for the Playboy channel. And Playboy Hard Bodies was one of many.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. And
it's a check.
And had some very interesting experiences on a lot of those. Got to meet Hugh Hefner. Went to the Playboy Mansion a couple of times. So yeah, some very interesting things came out of that. And then the other one,
maybe literal.
Grotto. Okay, to get us out of the gutter that we've gotten ourselves into, of all your work, of all things you're working on, is there a particular movie or particular special effects in the movie that you view as like your magnum opus, or like a top 5 or whatever? Where are you most proud of your work wise?
Well, let's see. Well, one of the things referenced in that question was the movie Virus. I only worked on one shot on Virus, but I was very proud of the work that we did. There's a scene at the end where basically the whole movie takes place on a Russian trawler.
Yeah.
And then at the end, there's a series of catastrophic, explosions that tear the ship apart, and then it sinks, breaks in half, and then sinks, and then explodes underwater. So that was a miniature effect. and it was shot at a tank at a company called Fantasy 2. And interesting little geeky side note: the Russian trawler miniature was about 50 feet long, and it was the hull of it was half of the drilling platform from the Abyss.
No shit.
Wow.
Yeah,
Really?
the drilling platform was like 2 boat hulls with a deck across it. And the same company, Fantasy 2, did all of those effects for the Abyss, and they still had those big bolt hulls sitting
I'd
around.
save some money.
Yeah, so they took one of them and converted it into this Russian trawler that we were then tasked with blowing up. So it was myself, 2 of my colleagues. We went in. We're working with the miniature effects people and everything like that. And we spent about 10 hours loading that thing with pyrotechnic charges, because there was going to be approximately 50 events. It was like boom, 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 getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and then finally one big explosion that would break the hull in half, and then it would sink, and then there would be a large underwater explosion. So we spent 10 hours loading all this miniature pyro, running wires out, and this is all in a tank of water that's 25 feet deep. It's going to be shot at night, and so we get all of the pyro loaded, and we were doing this on dry land, doing the loading, and then the ship was then on a big sling that was picked up by a crane and then put into the tank, and then intentionally they had built electrically operated valves and pumps into it so they could flood the hull to get it to set at the right level. So got it in the water, flooded the hull, got it to the right level. It's like, okay, great. Let's crank up the wind machines, let's get this thing going and start blowing this thing up. And so
sorry.
Mhm.
I was going to ask towards that. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but when they did that, so you actually, none of this storm was actually CGI in that final scene when they escaped the ship and it blew up. So it was all done with natural props and everything else around the tank.
Yes, that's big wind machines and fire hoses and wave generators. And so as we're getting the final preparations underway, unfortunately, the valves and the pumps failed, and the entire hull of the ship flooded, and the whole thing sank to the bottom of the tank in under a minute before we had a chance to set anything off or roll cameras. So the next day, they're like, okay, we're done for the night. So we came back the next day, hooked the crane up to it, brought the whole thing out of the water. But before we did that, I had my first, I've been a scuba diver for a long time, but my first experience as a wreck diver was going down into this tank and going into the hull of this miniature ship to remove a bunch of unexploded pyro before we started hauling it out of the water. Because there was a couple of big charges in there that we wanted to make sure were secure before we started doing anything. So then the miniature effects people spent like a week repairing the damage, and then we did the whole thing over about 10 days later and did it successfully the next time.
Question with that: when you're doing that type of charge laying and wiring, do you make sure it's also waterproof but also secure that it can't short out while the crew is working on it? Right? There's a whole bunch of safety procedures within it, right?
Yes, and all of this is very low voltage. It's a 12 volt firing system, so there's not much danger of electrocution or anything, but you do have to worry about that you're not shorting out your connections.
Okay. That's awesome, because Virus was a great movie. I'm wondering, did they use any other miniature you're aware of?
It gets a lot of bad rap, and
No.
I always enjoyed that film.
It was scary. It was like what happened if the Titanic was infected in this day and age, because I felt like it had the same type of sinking scene in a way with the ship broke in half.
Right.
I remember that.
Yeah, it stands up to today, in my opinion. It's a good film. But I want to get to the videos. And by the way, welcome to the show, Fat Steven Seagal. Steven, this is my Keith's and my buddy Tom Seymour.
Hi, hello, Keith's buddy.
Hey there.
And Fat Steven is weird. We love him. He's also the co-host on our Friday show.
he's
But
not
I'm going to
weird.
switch over. Yeah. What? What are you rambling about?
It's nice to meet you, Tom. I hope they haven't tortured you too much.
Not at all.
Not too much.
No, this has actually been quite a fascinating learning experience. And I screwed up. I mean, I've got more Burning Man questions for you, but I don't want to derail the show because like my friend just keeps texting me stuff. So
Start charging him $5 a question.
You need to do,
maybe after
do
the
with
show
them
or
what I
something.
do to you guys. Shut up.
Yeah. Okay.
Anyway.
Yeah, sorry.
I just got here. I'm just going to mute myself. I'm going to
one last question before we move to the video section portion. Salty Trekker wants to know, how would you try to do realistic fire in zero grav?
I've never been called upon to do that, so that would be an interesting challenge. I suspect that that's going to be primarily visual effects. You know, it's like we may do like a lot of times what we'll do is it's called elements, where we'll shoot fire or an explosion or something against a green screen or just a black background. And then the visual effects people will then take that raw material and then manipulate it, to their whatever purpose they are. But they start off with much better raw material than trying to create the whole thing from scratch.
Because that's a problem when it comes to like the zero G, because a lot of people have that debate whether or not explosions and fire, especially like we're seeing ship battles, will actually have a long burning fire because of the zero air and what would actually be fueling that. So you have to make it custom depending on the tech used in the film.
Yeah, because gravity and vacuum are two different things. Zero G is because fire itself is a form of fuel burning, so therefore it can be used as a fuel to move something. As it burns. So it really isn't subject to gravity as much as firing a projectile in a zero G, because it would blow you backward.
Along with all the pieces parts.
Yeah, I've always wondered how that works in space. Like,
Outland,
it's a vacuum,
Outland, the movie Outland was so ridiculous. Shotguns in a space platform that had plastic walls. I'm just like, that was insane. But let's get to this video, because I'm really because I enjoyed watching these. They go by too quickly for me, but I was so grateful that you sent these, and thank you, Tom, for sending these to me.
Certainly.
So here's the first one. Do you want to set this one up?
Yeah, this was an episode of Criminal Minds, and what the setup is Thomas Gibson, who plays Agent Hotchner, is rescuing a guy out of this diner and who's been injured. And but there's the gas. The bad guy has like opened up all the gas valves. In the diner, and then has set like a little timer that's going to set the whole thing off. So he's dragging this wounded guy out of this diner, which is going to explode just as they get to a safe spot.
And what was your job on this one specifically?
To blow up the diner.
You set it off. Are you back with the camera though, setting that up?
So, but basically, the storefront of the diner is just a facade between two existing buildings that our construction department built.
You mean you didn't blow up a real place?
not this time, but we have done it on other occasions.
Yeah, there's the bank one. I got to show that one, but I'm going to go ahead and show this one real quick.
Okay.
And hot. Go.
There you are with that fire again. You're just like blowing shit up and setting people on fire.
When you guys do that, do you like? It's like when you see a cardboard or like a wooden set you see on stage. Is it the same type of front you set up and then you just lace it with a certain amount of pyrotechnics behind it, so it looks like it with an actual like full building like frame used, or does it depend?
It depends on the circumstances, but sometimes we'll do this with a real existing building, and then sometimes it's something that we just build ourselves. Again, it varies from job to job, and we'll use a variety of things. We'll use explosive charges to shatter the glass. We'll use big compressed air cannons that have big funnels on them, filled with debris that will then launch, through like.
Because that's what we used on what was that movie? The Albino Farm horror film. Yeah, it's like we had a big air cannon that blew styrofoam and shit out of the cave. But,
Right.
We want to say hi to Cece, Dork Knight's mother, and his woman are in the chat right now. There she is. Oh, wait.
Hi there.
Stop comments. There you go. There's Cece. There she is.
Actually, the one he put up was funnier, but that's
Yeah.
all good.
Gary, can I ask one quick question, please, to Tom, if that's okay?
You want Chinese tonight? I can swing by and get some dinner on my way home.
See, she's out of town right now, so he's just messing with me.
Yeah, he likes fucking with Dork Knight.
That's why I said fuck that guy.
Steven, what was your question?
Tom, I gotta ask a question. When you go to like a restaurant, like say where you go to fast food or even a Starbucks, do you ever sit there in line because it's taking so long? Be like, how would I blow up this building so the line would go quicker? And if so, which is the worst one you've done? Is it Starbucks, McDonald's, Burger King? Which one? It's got to be one. I know.
Exactly. Here's a quick question. They should let you blow up dilapidated buildings in cities and help them get rid of them. And somebody wanted to compliment The Arrival, which is a good film. It really is. It's very dated, but it's a good film.
Quickly, I worked on the miniature effects on the Arrival. One specific scene, it's at the end where the giant radio telescope
explodes.
Yeah, well, starts collapsing and then collapses. Starts caving in on itself and then twists and then collapses. That was the scene we worked on. We built a miniature, basically a 10-foot tall, radio telescope on a miniature background, and then destroyed it.
You should do this with every single practical miniature effect you ever work on. You should start outside of the camera, the effect happens, then you come up and go. I just think that'd be funny.
You were wondering.
Every time you do it.
Have you ever had to blow something up? You were just like, damn, that's just, I wish I didn't have to. That thing is just so, either you were so proud of it.
I know what you're talking about. Yeah, when something looks really good and you got to destroy it.
Yeah.
Well, more times than not, that happened when I was doing miniature effects, where, we would come in, I would just be on the pyro crew. And it would come in, and I would see this beautifully crafted, miniature building, landscape, whatever it was, and I knew how much time and effort, went into it, the actual model builders put into it.
Right.
They'd spend
Did you ever hear this over the intercom system? Tom Seymour has stolen another prop. He's trying to leave the set. Somebody stop him.
Who took Charlie Sheen's tiger blood? We were supposed to blow this up.
So it was like, I would come in and go, it's like, oh my God, there's so much, effort and energy went into this. It's like, it's a shame that we're going to just completely destroy it now. But the funny thing is that I mentioned that on a few occasions, to, the actual model builders, that had done that. It's like, I feel bad that, we've now come in to wreck this. And 8 times out of 10, they're like, it's like, I'm so tired of looking at this thing. Yeah, fucking blow it up.
Now, we have a couple of questions that are going to be coming up here. But before we do, I want to go back to the video. What's going on here?
So in this again, a lot of these videos are, just to save some time, are from Criminal Minds, because I did 10 years on Criminal Minds. So there's a lot of
fucking show, and you did a lot of good work on there.
Thank you.
There's one on here that freaks me out. When we get to it, I'm going to point out why it freaks me out.
Okay.
But this one, go ahead and set this one up.
So this is a piece of a kind of an elaborately put together scene. In the episode, the bad guy has kidnapped a young lady. He's driving down a country road. He's being pursued by our heroes, and he loses control of the car, and he drives off an embankment into a lake, and then the car sinks, into the lake. Our heroes pull over, jump into the water, swim down, and then rescue the young lady, and end up killing the bad guy in the process. So at the actual location where the lake was, we had a stuntman driving a real car into the lake. So for this piece, though, what they wanted was the director said, he goes, I want a camera down underwater. I want to see the truck crashing into the water, and then they were going to shoot the whole sequence of our heroes diving in, swimming underwater, pulling the young lady out of the car and killing the bad guy. So that was all.
Yeah, so this is a tank at the studio,
This is a
right?
tank. Yeah, this is the Fantasy 2's tank. So what we're doing here is we're simulating the part of the shot where the car has driven off the embankment and goes into the water. So we're hanging it on a crane and we're swinging it into the water. So the camera, which is an underwater camera with a scuba diving operator down on the bottom, is looking up at it as it crashes into the water. So what you're seeing is us swinging the real car into the water, so the underwater camera can capture that.
All right, here we go, guys. Yep, I don't want to give that one away yet.
Okay.
Because I'm curious about this one too when we get to it. But the question was from Mr. Tickletrunk, and he says, "Tom, do you ever get attached to your explosions? Have you ever named any one of your boom babies?"
Not so much on that, because again, there's, kind of like the miniature effects guys. By the time we get to, the point of pushing the button, there's been a lot of time and effort and blood, sweat, and tears involved. So, I just want to blow it up and be done with it and go home.
Be done with it, right? Here's another question from our good friend Cavatino Calvaruman Che. He is Army like me. Criminal Minds is coming back. Before I finish that question, are you going to be going back to work with them?
As a matter of fact, I am. I'll be starting in week after next. I'll be starting to prep on the new version of Criminal Minds.
You know what I'd like to do is I'd like to have some video from you going onto the set for the first day and then share it with us so we can show you going to work.
Okay,
Probably be a while before you can do that.
I'll try to make that happen.
Do you do
Yeah,
like
as long as it
social
doesn't
media,
show
or would
anything, he could just shoot that.
Would you
He
stream
just
that
can't-
anyway?
Yeah.
I'm just curious. Like,
What?
are you like one of those social media people? Would you stream that anyway, or record that anyway? Or
Not really. I'm not
Okay.
that active on social media.
do you do stuff like that anyway, just for your own posterity or memories, or not? Or is he just asking? I'm just trying to figure out if he's actually asking a big deal.
He
of
wants
you.
to know where to stalk you online.
Yeah.
Okay, now the next question from the second part of this is my question is, how grand are Tom's 4th of July fireworks?
Well, typically, every year on 4th of July, it's like I work on a fireworks show. And actually, a good friend of mine, Robert Hutchins, has been doing the same fireworks show for the last 25 years. And so, with a few exceptions, I almost always work on that show. And so I'm part of a professional fireworks crew on 4th of July.
Nice.
So when you go back to work on Criminal Minds, are you going to be wearing your kilt?
Absolutely. Kilt Fridays will be reinstated.
I think first day kilt. That seeing you returning back to work, you should be wearing the kilt for us.
Maybe.
Well, did Utilikilt go out of business?
No, they're still in business.
Good. Yeah.
Yeah, when I went to the Ren Fair, Keith,
he single-handedly made sure of that.
Back in March, they had some utility kilts there from that company.
Because they're not just regular kilts. They are, well, Tom, explain what these kilts are, unlike regular kilts.
They're for golf.
Well, yeah, a regular kilt is typically made out of wool and has a tartan plaid pattern. But a company called Utilikilts basically took a similar pattern to the way a kilt is made with the pleats and everything like that. But they made it out of like heavy duty canvas that, most work pants are made out of. And then they incorporated like cargo pockets and hammer loops and things like that. So, people can actually wear them to work.
Today's show is brought to you by
Utilikilts.
Yes, this episode is brought to you by Utilikilt. Tom Sizemore. Tom Seymour is Tom Sizemore is just a gone dude right now, man. What a mess. What a wreck of a human being. Loved him as an actor, but man. But Tom, let's set up this scene here with because this looks like it's a stage. It doesn't look like it's on any location. Am I right?
Correct. This is on stage, and this is a test. And in the in the script, what it called for was the interior of a restaurant, and with a bunch of people in it, eating, talking, waiters going back and forth, and an explosion goes off outside the doors and blows the doors in. And so we're doing a first test of for the first part of just kind of working this out. And so what this is, what you're going to see here is there'll be a bright flash, which is a pyrotechnic charge just going off to do that bright flash. And then everything else is done with compressed air cannons filled with balsa wood debris. And those doors you're looking at are made out of balsa wood and have been pre-cut and pre-scored so they'll fly apart.
Exactly in the right shapes. Gotcha.
Question.
All right, it's only an 8-second video, and we're going to go ahead and watch it now. That's fucking nice, dude.
That's good chili.
Yeah, I love that. Hold on, I got to play that again. Right here.
That's how you fucking do it, boys.
That's my thought. Because we're showing that to the directors and producers.
Isn't that
That's
like
fucking
from
beautiful.
Meaning of Life when Mr. Creosote blew up, and you're just reusing the scene?
So on a show like that, how much of it is sets and how much of it is actual locations?
It can vary on that particular set or episode. We built the whole restaurant interior as a set, just so it was easier and cheaper, and we had more control that way.
Now this one here looks like it's in New Orleans. Where is this?
This is on the Universal backlot.
You're kidding me! Wow.
And this is the setup for this is a bunch of what first appears to be a bunch of bank robbers have gone in, taken a bunch of hostages, and it appears just to be a bank robbery kind of gone wrong. But actually, their whole intent was to go in and destroy the bank. So they've placed a bunch of explosive charges. And
we get two shots of this. We get one that's taken from the opposing corner, and then this shot here.
So a couple of interesting things about this. One is this is on the Universal backlot, and there had been a big fire on the Universal backlot like a year and a half before we did this that destroyed a bunch of the Universal backlot, which they then rebuilt. This is part of the new rebuilt building or section like that. And we were the first company to do any pyrotechnics in the rebuilt section that had been burned down the year before. So there was a lot of scrutiny and a lot of tension on the part of Universal going, please don't destroy our brand new building.
Nice. Okay.
And then the other thing I'd like to point out about this particular scene is that most times in most movies or TV shows, if you see actors and an explosion in the same scene, the actors are almost always running away, running toward camera, and then the thing, whatever it is, blows up in the background because obviously you're getting the actors as far away as possible from the explosion going off. Well, in the meeting and discussion about this whole thing, we were trying to make it a little more interesting and and raise the stress level of it, for the audience's part, thinking our heroes were in much more danger. So what we ended up doing, and these are all stunt doubles that you'll see in this, but the way it all worked out, and again, it was just kind of coincidental. The way this building is worked out, it sits on a corner, and we're going to blow out the building, the windows and doors on both sides of the building on the corner. But right on the corner is a big, massive, this looks like a stone building, but there's a big, heavy, massive piece of architecture there. So the way we worked it out with the stunt people is that as they're approaching the building like that, as soon as they step up onto the sidewalk, right there at that corner, we start setting explosions off, and then they hit the ground, to protect themselves. But because they're right there by that big piece of, massive, sturdy part of the thing, they're actually in the safest place they can be because all the debris is going off,
it's going to go in opposite directions.
And they're in the safest place they can be. But when you're watching it and the audience is watching it, it's like you're seeing our heroes approaching a building, and then right when they get to it, it explodes.
Yeah, this is real cool. All right, I'm going to play this real quick.
So I think the other shot shows what I was talking about a little better.
Yep.
This was just shot by one of our crew members who just set their phone on a ledge.
Now, I am curious, and I'm going to move ahead to the other one real quick. Oh, it says it's not there, so I'll need to reopen it. It gets finicky. There it is. There we go. I'm going to pause this real quick.
Yeah.
But you're working both here with what you're doing, as well as, I'm assuming, someone from Tactical that's handling the activity of the actors, as well as the uniformed officers in the scene that are clearly stunt actors themselves, but Tactical is going to tell them how to approach and everything, right?
Correct. We had technical advisors, that would work with the stunt people and our actors for any kind of scenes like this to at least make them kind of look like they know what
they knew what they're doing. Yeah. So here's the other angle. This is the one I really liked. I'm like, holy crap, this is a money shot right here.
Yeah. So as you watch, as soon as they step up onto the sidewalk, things start happening.
Wow.
Now, I am curious. Were you the one that triggered that?
I was not. My boss was on the button on that.
Oh man, because that's I would like fucking love to be the guy that pulled the trigger on that one.
Yeah, it's fun.
Were the actors terrified doing that?
They were. Actors? Yeah, they were a little concerned. But we've all worked together before, so they trusted us when we explained what we were doing.
Yeah, exactly. Now this is the one that freaks me out because this actually looks like a real gas station.
This is a real gas station. This is down in Long Beach.
You're doing pyrotechnics at a real gas station.
Right. And
this is freaking me the fuck out because I worked in gas stations when I was younger and know how dangerous this is.
Right.
Oh,
well, this is just so you know, this was a closed down gas station.
So they had no fuel in those tanks.
So there was no fuel in the tanks, and and we'd made sure that the pumps had been drained and everything like that, because this was scheduled to be demolished, because something else was going up in its place. So that's why we were able to do this the way we did it.
And the shocking thing here is the price of gas and milk.
Right.
2 gallons of 2 gallons of milk, $5. That's $2.50 a gallon. Oh my god! And so, as with gas prices go, the price of milk. They're almost always in tandem with each other, and nobody's ever noticed that. I thought that was weird. Like, why does milk go up when gas goes up? I mean, they almost like identical. It's weird. But this is a
Gary,
neat burn.
When I watch Die Hard, that's the part that depresses me the most. When Al Powell's at the gas station, looks at Nakatomi Plaza, and you can see the price of gas. And it makes
75 cents or some shit like that. Crazy. So what's going on here in this shot?
In the right before this, the bad guy has he's pulled the gas pump out and locked the handle open and threw it on the ground. So there was a big puddle of gas on the ground that he then throws a match down and lights and then runs away. And so then that's why you have this big.
And what characters were supposed to be in that car? Were that our heroes or was it a victim?
It was neither. He was trying to just destroy the car, destroy the evidence, and a distraction so he could.
As they call him on the show, the unsub.
The unsub. Yes.
All right, so here we go, guys. Oh, that is so pretty, dude.
Wow.
That is RoboCop pretty. That is RoboCop pretty. Remember that scene at the gas station?
Yeah.
Fuck yeah. Now,
and that's JD right there.
You are correct.
Gosh, I miss JD.
Oh, with the hat?
Yeah.
Did I meet JD?
This is a scene from the Entourage movie, and there's basically the setup is there's a big underground rave going on, and the riot squad has been called in, and so they're approaching this big angry mob of ravers, and somebody throws a Molotov cocktail at the SWAT team.
Now this is less of what I would call a controlled burn, because yes, he has a specific target, and this guy is a stunt performer, I'm assuming too, that throws the Molotov because he's got to hit his target. And that's what's kind of scary when you do a scene like this, because explosive liquid flame is likely to get on other performers. So I'm assuming that all these guys are trained.
Well, play the clip, and then I'll explain how he did it.
Okay, here we go, guys. That was fucking crazy, dude.
So the way we did that was is we obviously had stunt performers, in SWAT.
I'm going to mute it. Go ahead.
Okay. And then the person throwing it was also a stunt performer. So what we did is the guy throwing the Molotov cocktail has a breakaway bottle that has a rag stuffed in it that's soaked with fuel, and there's just a little tiny bit of fuel in the bottle. Okay. So the stunt performers that are now approaching have the riot shields. We painted a thickened fuel onto the riot shields. So what happens is he throws the breakaway bottle, and it hits and ignites the fuel that's already on the shield, so we could control where
it's a controlled burn. Gotcha.
Cool. Yeah.
Wonderful.
I like that. That is really neat, dude. Moving on to the next one. I don't know why that reminds me somewhat of the car from Evil Dead. I don't know. It's a different color, but it still reminds me of that big gas guzzler from the 70s. But
looks like a scene from Rockford Files.
And when I started seeing this, I knew immediately this was going to be an explosion because there's nobody manning these cameras.
Right.
So
this is from another show that my boss on Criminal Minds, Andre Ellingson, and I had been doing concurrently while we were working on Criminal Minds, called Hollywood Weapons. And it's on the Outdoor Channel, and it's kind of a Mythbusters type of show. And the premise is they take iconic scenes from movies that involve, weapons, usually firearms, but any kind of weapons, and they basically put it to the test and say, could you really do this? Would this really work, or is this pure Hollywood? And so in this one, we had done a whole bunch of stuff involving cars, and so for the final scene of it, they wanted us to blow a car up, so they said, we want a big dramatic explosion. And we're like, okay, so this is just for the in sequence of that particular episode.
All right, I'll go ahead and play it here. That's gorgeous, dude.
Wow.
Aces.
And you notice there, because it's in slow motion, that and this is the case in most times we're blowing up a house or a car or whatever. It's not just one thing going off; it's a sequence. We have multiple things going off. We've got charges that are blowing the doors open, that are blowing the hood open, and then we're setting off fireballs, inside the car.
This one, when we get to this one, I was really like, what the fuck is going on here? I was really confused by this. But those hills look really familiar. Are those the same hills from MASH?
It's out in the same vicinity, but it's not in the same area. It's out in the Santa Clarita area. We were shooting that out on a shooting range.
The only problem with Santa Clarita is all the vampires.
Well, sure.
But what the hell is this from?
Okay, so in 2021, I spent a good part of 2021 working on a Nickelodeon kids show called Danger Force.
Danger Force.
And it's a sitcom, basically about teenagers with superpowers. And it's a spin-off of another Nickelodeon show called Henry Danger. And so in this, the setup for this is there was a fight that was happening between one of our heroes and the bad guy, and the one of our heroes grabs the bad guy, and our hero, his superpowers, he can teleport. So he grabs the bad guy, teleports the two of them 200 feet in the air, lets go of the guy, and then teleports himself back down to the ground. And now our villain is going to come crashing through the roof.
All right. This, because I was trying to figure out what the fuck was going on here. Like, I could not figure it out.
Here, working hot. We're hot. Yeah. 3, 2, 1, go.
That's what I call breaking news.
Breaking what?
Not sure what they were saying.
I think Breaking Bad or Breaking News, something like that.
Breaking news. Okay.
Because it was supposed to be at a TV station, and that was, basically we had a dummy, and then a couple of boxes with basically trapdoors in the bottom that were all on electrically operated trips. So we could hit the button, the doors would open, the debris would fall, and then the dummy would drop, and it would all hit the ground at the same time.
Was that the Al Bundy dummy that they used on Married with Children?
When he fell off the ladder. Before we go to this video, got a question. Bill Barkley, I didn't know that he worked on Honey, I Blew Up the Kid. You've got to ask him about that. And so, all right, what was your experience from working on that Disney project?
Again, I was working for the miniature effects and visual effects. I was working for a company called Perpetual Motion Pictures, and they were, at the time, they were state of the art, but now it's old technology. Is like they were what was called an optical effects house, where any sort of post-production effects were all done practically with cameras and optical printers, and so it was meshing different pieces of film together to do a different effect shots. This is again before the days of CG and and being able to like digitally composite shots together. And so we did a bunch of different stuff for that, and I was working kind of in all capacities. I was helping build the rigs. I was helping with the camera and lighting crew. I was just kind of all over the place, whatever needed to be done. So we did lots of little pieces for Honey, I Blew Up the Kid. I wasn't on set, with first unit or anything. It was all miniature and visual effects elements on stage.
Yeah, that's cool.
Wow.
Get some interesting ones here. Kingsport Cal, I like how Tom talks in script terms like our hero, our villain. And then, of course, this one was brought up by Bill. Didn't know he was an actor, too, in Guardians of the Realm as Bannon.
That was my friend Evil Ted's movie. And so, yes, I played a character called Bannon. I was basically the Obi-Wan Kenobi. I was the older mentor to the young hero.
How was it? Did you like doing that? Getting in front of the camera?
It was fun. And I've done a few little things here and there, but it's never really lit me on fire. It was fun working
like
on
doing the effects and stuff. Right.
Yeah. It's like, to be in front of the camera, I've never been that excited about. And it was fun doing it on Ted's movie, but it's like, okay, that's plenty. And funny story, if we have a minute, when Ted first started describing this movie that he wanted to make, and I said, okay, I want to help you any way I can. Let's make this thing happen. And so we were getting, more and more into the discussions. So at one point I told him, I said, okay, I said, here's the one thing I want. I said, I want to die in a scene in your movie. I want to die horribly, and he's like, okay. So I just wanted to be some background guy that gets killed by a monster or something, just for fun. And so when he gets a final script done, he hands me the script. He goes, here, I want you to read it. Give me your notes or suggestions. And he goes, I wrote a scene in there where you get to die horribly. And I'm like, okay. And he goes, by the way, you're Demon Hunter #1. He goes, I haven't come up with a name for your character yet. I'm like, okay. So I'm reading the script, and I read the whole thing, and I'm like, Ted, Demon Hunter #1 is like a major character in this. He's got a bunch of lines. That's not what I had in mind. And he goes, no, you're perfect for it. He goes, and I'm like, okay, but this is not what I had in mind at all.
You got drafted.
Right.
So how would you refer to us?
This is the film that we're talking about right
Correct.
here. So you got to play a character. That's interesting. I didn't know you got in front of the camera.
Yeah.
But okay. Did anybody else have a question, or can I go on to the next video?
I did have a question. Actually, I do have a question. Kind of going back to that first film that we showed, where you had the fake cafe between two buildings. Now, were those actual like in a town, or was that a back set that you did that on?
No, that was downtown Los Angeles.
Okay, so I'm assuming that you had those shaped charges. I suppose, how concerned were the people who owned the buildings on each side when you were staying? How concerned were they, the people that owned those?
Oh, the people in the other buildings.
Yeah. Yes. Well, of course they were concerned, but they also, it's our locations department handled all those negotiations. So there was plenty.
Write the checks.
Compensation for for us even using that, and there was plenty of insurance. So the owners of those the buildings on either side knew that if something went horribly wrong, there were some deep pockets that they could dig into.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so let's go ahead and set up this. Let's go ahead and set up this next video. And this, where is this? What is this?
This is kind of a downtown LA-ish in an industrial area, and this is basically it's a scene from Criminal Minds, and our heroes have found a bomb. And so they're running the opposite way, and this is part of a multi sequence. So they're running away, and then this is just a shot, from the outside where one of our other characters is approaching the building like that, and then the explosion goes off inside and blows out a window.
All right. Let's go check this out.
You can see my boss in the foreground pressing the button.
Over on the left. Okay.
Yeah.
Lucky guy.
I like the slow-mo on this.
Ooh.
Nice.
Beautiful.
Let's see. I do have a question then. How big is the effects community? Is it like, massive international, or is it like kind of a more tight-knit group and you kind of all know each other?
It's a little of both. It's like, comparatively, we're kind of a smaller department and a little smaller world than a lot of other departments. And we're also a little more specialized. So yeah, and it's international, there's people all over the world doing this. And for the most part, we all either know each other or have heard of each other, or work together or something like that. Like in the state of California, has state pyrotechnic license. And there's 3 classifications of that: third class, second class, and first class. Mm-hmm. I hold a first class license, and as of right now, I am one of less than 90 people in the entire state of California that holds that class 1 license. Because we've had a huge wave of people retired from our industry, like that, and like the new wave of youngsters hasn't worked their way up, through the ranks just yet.
Mhm.
Tom, that is so cool, man.
By the
That is
way,
so very cool.
you remember Shane Moore, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Shane and I were on live TV way back in 2013, and we were flown out to LA. And on the trip from the show or our hotel back to the airport, in the Shane and I pointed out to the chauffeur, "Hey, Tom Seymour's right over this fence," because we drove by the back lot.
Oh, right.
And you saw the sign that says "Criminal Minds."
Right.
Shoots here, and it's like, I bet he's over there right now. Oh, we can't stop and heckle him. That was just a fun moment. But anyway, this scene here, I like this because this kind of reminds me of those contraptions. I forget what they're called. Anybody remember what they're called? Devices that
Rube
one thing
Goldberg.
starts. What's it called?
Rube Goldberg.
Yeah, Rube Goldberg. This is a Rube Goldberg device here.
Yes.
Because one thing does another thing that does the thing, because nobody can be down there. It's not safe.
Right.
What you're getting ready to do.
Yeah, and this is a scene from that show I mentioned, Hollywood Weapons, and the scene we're putting to the test or recreating was there was a
like Mythbusters.
Yeah, it's like Mythbusters, and there was a scene of from the horror movie like Jason versus Freddy Krueger.
Yeah, hence the mask.
Right, and there's a scene in it where they're fighting in a warehouse, and one of them knocks the valve off of a compressed air tank, and it flies across the room and causes a bunch of.
I remember that. Yeah.
So they're like, they're like, all right, let's put this to the test. What would this really do? So we've got a 3,000-pound nitrogen tank, sitting on that deck. We've got a mannequin, standing up in front of it. And then basically we built a big arm out of steel pipe that's got a weight welded to the end of it, and then an axe head on it. So
now I'm gonna enlarge this so everybody can really see this.
Yeah,
so
please.
There it is, center screen.
So when we release the rope, the arm falls down, and the axe head knocks the valve off the end of that tank and launches it at the mannequin.
This is badass, dude.
Wow.
And what you
I want
don't
to show that one more time.
Yeah.
What is this slow mo?
That is just so badass, dude.
So
That
what
really is.
what that clip doesn't show is that the tank launches off of the table, smashes into the mannequin, then it hits the ground, and it traveled probably another 100 yards downrange of the shooting range.
It's a real torpedo.
Ran out of steam.
Yeah, it's a real
This is
fucking
almost-
torpedo.
This is almost
That's
going
awesome.
to Wile E. Coyote territory here.
Right.
But that's really kind of cool. It's very similar to something I did in a comic book because, like you, I did scuba diving.
Oh, right.
And I wrote a scene into St. Thomas that's been rewritten, but it's still, he kept the stuff in there by the new writer. Because I went with a buddy of mine, the guy who trained me when we were kids. And he wanted to show me how it would work. And we didn't actually do it, but he showed me how it would work. And we took a tank under ice.
Mm-hmm.
And we stripped the valve all the way down to the last thread.
Mm-hmm.
And basically we figured out it would really work if you put it in the trunk system of a water tree. The tree's root system must be in the water.
Mm-hmm.
You hook the tank into that, knock off that valve, and it would shoot up through the ice like a torpedo.
Right.
And we figured out
I'll be right back.
we did some of it practically and discovered that basically that shit does work. He had to step away for a second. I'm assuming somebody probably came to his door. This has been a fun show.
It has been.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
And that's even with Keith here.
But
And even having Dork
Keith,
here.
Keith is the party pooper.
Okay, I'll leave again then. Jeez.
I cannot be the party pooper.
I
You need
He's
some
the party
blackness.
pooper.
You need blackness.
Now is the time on
He
the
brings
pop
color to the
culture
show.
where we dance. Do-do-do-do, dance. Monkey dance.
Yeah, I'm done with Shinatsky, man. He's lost it today.
So does he know the
You
guy
had a
was
couple of good
voiced-
questions today, Shinatsky. Really good job. So do you, Danny.
Thanks.
Baron, yours is pretty good. Steven, yours is good. Martin,
Fuck you too,
he's
Gary.
been quiet, and Steven's been quiet.
Well,
Oh, I'm
does he know the guy
sorry.
does-
I was trying to ask questions, but
I'm sorry. The
So
minute
what?
you walked away, I started fucking with the rest of our panel. That's what I do.
As soon as the question's about to be asked, he wants to play a video. So we're used to just being silenced by the patriarch we call Gary.
Yeah.
The Gary patriarchy.
Oh,
He
I
doesn't
forgot
want
to-
us to outsmart him with questions.
Help! I'm being
Later
oppressed.
tonight, Fat Steven Seagal will choke to death on a bag of dicks.
That's
News
only
at
because
11.
Gary has already choked last week on what was left of those bag of dicks from Amazon, the gluten-free ones. He did most of those reviews.
Is that
I
gonna
actually
be
want to
up
get
to
candy
Stefan
dicks to send to people. Now, don't choke on these. All right, Tom. This is a neat gag here. It's a mixture of pyrotechnics and a stunt.
Yes.
So you guys put some planning into this. I'm going to guess Criminal Minds.
Yeah, Criminal Minds, and it's actually not a stunt. This is purely an effect. What's happening?
Oh, okay.
There's somebody in the scene. It's a chase scene, and then the driver of the car gets shot like that, and then obviously loses control of the car, and then the car smashes into a telephone pole. And so what we did was we took a real car. We took the engine out of it, and then we hooked it to a cable, and then ran the cable through a pulley, and then hooked it up to a pickup truck, and we basically pulled the car at about 50 miles an hour into a telephone pole that we had set there ourselves.
Nobody in the vehicle.
Nobody in the vehicle. There's
Oh,
a
that's
dummy in the front seat that you can't see, but there's
Okay.
nobody in the vehicle.
Quick question before Gary actually plays this clip. How much did you pay Gary to dress up as a telephone pole?
Shut up.
Actually,
That
that's
was
Gary
so
that's
funny,
in
I
the car.
forgot
Kind
to
of-
laugh.
Chinatsky, remind me when you become funny, then I will laugh.
Oh, that's
Oh,
Gary
Go,
in the
guys.
car. He pissed off.
Video.
Pissed him off that day.
Video children.
Holy shit.
Oh,
Wow.
So the cable was actually pulling it the whole way then.
correct. And what we did was we're pulling it the whole way, and as the car got within about 5 feet of the telephone pole, we had put in the cable that was attached to the towing vehicle, we put a pyrotechnically activated trip on it. So and then one of us was just riding in the back of that tow cable. So when the crash car got within about 5 feet of the telephone pole, we hit the button, released the trip, and now we've released the tow vehicle from the crash car. So there was no danger of pulling it too far and damaging the tow vehicle.
It's fantastic little gag. I mean, it goes quick.
Yeah.
Well done. It looks good. I mean, the impact on that thing, I would have believed that thing to be real. Monkey Jeebus wants to know, do you know about Backdoor Gary?
Oh man.
Oh, do I want to?
And then, of course, Kingsport Cow goes, Monkey Jeebus, do we need to open that jar? Polly, who runs really one of my favorite other channels, as well as he works with Midnight's Edge, one of the number one streamers on YouTube, for what do they call it? Latino Slant.
Yeah,
is his
Latino
show.
Slant.
And then he does Spanish
Midnight's
version,
Edge.
Midnight's Edge Espanol. And great guy. He decided to fuck with me one night and called me Backdoor Gary because of something I said. And it's been going hashtagging ever since. I want to make a T-shirt and offer it to members only that says hashtag Backdoor Gary.
Or just make it a members only
I like
T-shirt.
I like backdoor. That's what they're saying.
The only thing that can be worked with the backdoor shirt is it can't be a short sleeve. It has to be a long sleeve because you can only tie it around your waist because that's the whole joke.
Hey, whatever consenting adults do on their own time.
On their own time, exactly. Hey, Gap's got a good question. What do you think is the best method to review visuals for corrections? And I'm guessing on the effects that you do. Like, because I know sometimes they'll enhance some effects digitally later.
Right.
If the explosion wasn't quite big enough or they think it wasn't big enough. And you can always spot it. I can always spot it when they do that shit.
Yeah.
Which is why I'm a bigger fan of actual pyrotechnics. But what do you think is the best method is what Gap is asking.
I really don't know how to answer that because I don't completely understand the question. It's like, because all of that, any sort of manipulation, done after the fact is like, we have no part of it.
You have no part in it. That's right.
It's like, we don't know any, we're not a part of that conversation, and we don't know how it turns out until we see the finished product.
Exactly. So with that, I'm going to say this. Gap, stop asking dumb questions.
I do actually have a question slightly tied into that. How often do you ever have to redo something? Like it wasn't quite what it needed to be with an effect?
It's, I personally have been pretty lucky that we've been able to, get it in the first try. But I mean, it does happen. It's like, there have certainly been projects I've been a part of where we've done reshoots, because something didn't turn out, the way everybody was happy with. I did that movie, The Contractor, was a good example of that. There was this whole big gunfight, gun battle, toward the end of the movie, that had been shot months before. I don't know. We never heard what the problem was, but for whatever reason, they weren't happy with it. So we came on board and basically reshot all of those sequences. Again, I don't know what the problem was with the first version, but we came in to do a second version of that.
That's interesting. He rephrased his question for you. First, he said, "Kiss my ass, Gary," followed by, "Okay."
Question.
Try this question: what do you do to remain up to date with industry technologies and software for the pyrotechnics and such?
Well, I have friends and colleagues, that work in the visual effects realm. So we're always having conversations. So I try to stay, talking to them about what's the latest tricks they have up their sleeve. And there's also times that when we're discussing how to do something, I'll consult with the visual effects people and say, it's like, okay, would it be better if we did this or did this? And if so, why? And so they'll explain to me, what their rationale is, how it works better for them, or, how what I do makes their job easier. And so in that response, there's, again, a lot of collaboration. And so I'm learning, how they do things and, kind of what the latest tricks are. Since it's not what I do, it's like, I have no idea what the
I feel like
anything like that.
I feel like Gap missed the part where you explained the difference between
Gap
special effects
came
and
in late to
visual
the show.
effects.
He came in late to the show. So I do want to, because there's a really good question here by Bill, who's been here the whole time. And I don't want to ask the question exactly the way he's asking it. But with the safety issues we've seen with that movie Rust and where that led to an injury and a death. And we've seen this time and time again with weapons on movies where things aren't handled correctly by the armorer. And that's how Brandon died back in the 90s. It's just, it's regrettable. It was avoidable if people had followed proper safety. And I bet you are a safety conscious dude, aren't you?
Yes.
And
it's a
when
big
you
part of
see,
my job.
you are one of the people I bet that would call somebody on it if you saw something being done in an unsafe manner.
Yeah, because that is a big part of my job. Is like if and that's always my my final go-to is if I call a safety issue, it's like, and there's been many times where I've been asked to do something and I said no, I'm not going to do it like that because it's not safe, and I've gotten into arguments with directors and producers, and I've made alternative suggestions, and it's come down to, it's like, I'm not doing this because I don't feel it's safe. Now, if you want to send me home and hire somebody else, you guys do whatever you feel you need to do, but I'm not going to be a part of this.
Alrighty. Hey, Baron, you had a question?
Yeah, actually, it's kind of going back, of course, here at EMT, as well as Gary and such. One of my favorite shows growing up was Emergency.
Oh, hell yeah.
How much of that influenced, first of all, being an EMT, but then, of course, there's always that spectacular fire and stuff blowing up in there. Did any of that stuff help influence you as you went along going, I'd like to do that?
I think it had, again, looking back, there's, a lot of aspects of my life have led me to, this, where I'm at today. But when Emergency first premiered, it's like my father being a firefighter, it's like that was a regular thing. We watched Emergency every week, so that was an important part of growing up. I was watching Emergency with my dad.
Oh, hell yeah. Because it inspired me to become a paramedic. Because I started out as an EMT 1, then I went to EMT 2, and then I went to school and did the paramedic. I was also an LPN, and I found that to be the dullest job I ever did. I'm like, oh my God, this is awful. And then I got burned out doing the paramedic thing, and I went back to nursing. And I'm like, I'm just going to do this for a while until the art pays off. But we got a question here from Kingsport Cal. And I think I need to ask this question in a different way for him on this one, because he's saying, did you ever work on shows doing effects for things like American Werewolf in London or The Howling? So, this again separates the practical effects of what you see on movie sets with what you're doing compared to the guys who do the practical effects for the monsters and stuff. But it often goes hand in hand because you've worked on stuff like that with the Guyver in particular.
Yes.
And
go ahead.
Go ahead.
Oh,
Go ahead.
Again, it's there's a lot of collaboration, and and it varies from project to project. But in stuff like The Howling and American Werewolf, that's special effects makeup, which is its own world, and creature effects, animatronics, that's again its own little world with its own group of specialists, and we may be working side by side with them, and helping or supporting or doing something concurrent. But that's again, that's a whole other department and a whole other realm.
And it takes it, because that was the direction I went. I wanted to do practical special effects for makeup. And in fact, the guy who used to be a producer on this show, Craig Edwards, I grew up with him. I did my first live cast on his face when we were I think he was a freshman, I was a sophomore, and I forgot to put enough release on his face, and I pulled out some of his eyelashes and eyebrow and part of his hair and his hairline. I felt it. It was really funny. I pulled at it and I felt tension, and I went, oh, and I let go of it, and my hands came up, and I went, fuck. And he goes, I could hear him. I'm sorry, Craig. And then I just pulled real hard and I just ripped it off of him.
May I ask a question, please? Did you mention the Guyver? What are you talking, like the actual movie, the real life one with Mark Hamill and his ugly?
Yes.
Okay, did you at any point want to blow off Mark Hamill's mustache because it was so horrible? It was like it did not belong there. Because I love that. I know it wasn't like the best integration of a real life action from anime, but it was definitely well done when it came to the suit. And I want to know, like, what part did you play in there? Like, did you actually help with that? Because I wasn't.
I got hired as a grip on that, so I was the grip and lighting crew on the Guyver.
Yeah. What did you think of it when you first saw the Guyver suit, though?
Oh, I was blown away by it because that was kind of my first, up close experience with that, and and I became friends with a lot of the creature effects guys that were
Awesome.
doing all those costumes, and and I'm still friends to this day, and but met some amazingly talented people on that, and was again blown
Well, the
away.
big question here is, Tom, before we wrap up, of course, since we need to wrap up now, is when you're hanging out with those guys, did they look at you and call you nerd?
Well, basically we're all nerds.
I know it's
like
it's just-
not every aspect of the movie business does this apply to, but there's a lot of aspects of the movie business where nerds get attracted to.
Yeah,
model
totally.
builders, creature effects guys, special effects guys. We all
and that's where I wanted to go because
nerdiness.
I really wanted to do, because Craig Edwards and I, the guy I pulled the plaster mold off his face, we wanted to do monster effects, and he went on to work for Pee Wee Herman's Playhouse. That was his first gig, doing miniatures and stuff, and he ended up going in that direction like you did with miniatures, and he really focused on that. And he ended up doing CG eventually, evolving to that and doing a lot of History Channel productions, from Dogfight to Planet Earth Without People, that show. Mm-hmm. He did all the visuals for that. And it's real fun to watch how it changes and evolves throughout your career. Mm-hmm. Because even with artwork, I quit doing real art for the most part because I saw the trend towards digital. Mm-hmm. And, you see stuff like that. But with what you're doing, I think it's a necessary thing for film and television that I don't want it to change. Mm-hmm. It's just like practical effects of any kind. I want that to always remain. I like miniatures. I like explosions. I like things not done as pretty as it is. It's what was said to me one time. When you do a digital painting, it doesn't mean anything because it's not on paper. It's not on canvas. Mm-hmm. But when you do live pyrotechnics and stuff like that, that was an experience that CG doesn't translate to. It doesn't. Yeah. You don't have an experience with doing CG. You do when you're doing special effects live.
Mm-hmm. So I got a question about that. As someone who is in your field and with your background, and clearly you enjoy to do it, are you able to watch movies and enjoy them in the same way? Or are you watching, let's say, like, the only reason I'm thinking of this is I saw Batman randomly the other day, the Michael Keaton one, and there's that scene at the end where it is clearly a miniature, where the Batwing is crashing onto the main street in Gotham City. Like, if you see stuff and it's just not up to snuff, like, what do you do you cringe, or are you still able to enjoy it? I'm just curious.
Well, I'm a pretty forgiving audience. So, if I'm watching a movie or TV show, and I'm, and I get pulled into the story, then I'm into it, and I'm just enjoying it. And if there's, some effects or something that are particularly bad, they have to be pretty bad for me to go, oh, wow, that wasn't very good. If it's bad enough that it takes me out of the story, and being entertained. But then on the flip side of that is every now and then I'll watch something and I'll see an effect, and it's so good, that I'll go, holy shit. Those guys really went above and beyond to pull that one off.
Which one happens more?
So, unfortunately, it's the other one. But again, the bad stuff has to be pretty bad, to pull me out of, enjoying what I'm watching.
Outstanding, man.
So any special effect on CNN, pretty much.
Yeah. So before you go, before we sign off, stick around after the show just for a second so we say bye to you. But I want to put you center screen. I want you to say something like, Pop Culture Minefield, Keith and Gary, awesome. And don't feel bad if you feel like doing it silly.
Yeah, hold up your fingers crossed, though.
Yeah.
Backdoor Gary.
I'm lying. Backdoor Gary, hashtag.
This stream is brought to you by Backdoor Gary and the inability to sit.
Pop Culture Minefield, Gary and Keith, awesome.
Thank you, buddy.
Perfect.
Appreciate it, man.
One
That's
take,
the first
Tom.
time I've actually thought to ask one of my friends to do that on the show. It's like, I'm going to remember this time. But Keith has to get going, so we're going to wrap up the show.
Okay, can I leave you with one story there?
Throw Keith under the bus.
Yes.
Oh my.
Baron.
Shoot your damn dogs. No.
Chinese food.
Damn doggy.
Can I leave you with one story that
Of course,
kind of
please.
ties
Put your
into
center screen
about
again.
all of us, all of us geeks and nerds being drawn into these aspects of the industry.
Sure.
I was working. This was many years ago at this point. I was working on the TV show Entourage, which is about a young actor, and his entourage of friends. Mm-hmm. And one of the story arcs in there was our young hero, the young actor, has been approached to play Aquaman in the upcoming
Yes,
Aquaman movie.
Right.
And which again, this is just part of the show story. And in within the context of the story, he's like, I don't know if I want to do this or not. So we were doing a scene where him and his entourage are in a steam room discussing this, and I'm there just doing some steam and fog, to simulate the fact that they're in a steam room. And so his agent says, and he goes, dude, you got to do this. It's going to be so awesome. And he goes, let me read you the opening line from the script. And he's like, okay, whatever. And he goes, Oliver Queen, aka Aquaman, stands on a rocky peak as the waves crash around him, and he leaps into the air and disappears beneath the crashing waves. He goes, how fucking cool is that? And he's like, yeah. And this is during a rehearsal. So I'm listening to this, and I'm like going, okay, do I say something? So I turned to the director, and I'm like, I said, hey, Bill, I said, I hesitate to bring this up. And he goes, yeah, Tom, what's on your mind? And now the entire crew is looking at me, and I'm like, I said, Oliver Queen is not Aquaman's secret identity. I said, Aquaman's secret identity is Arthur Curry. I said, Oliver Queen is Green Arrow. So I've now branded myself as the biggest geek in the world. Everybody's
I'm so glad you said something, though.
The director turns to his assistant and goes, is he right? And he goes, let me look it up. So he gets on his laptop and he goes, no, he's right. And he goes, well, let's change that shit.
They should have kept that in the script and made it part of the show.
Yeah,
that would have been great.
It'd be funnier if it was like, we now introduce you Aquaman, aka Clark Kent.
Yeah,
I want to thank you for being here. Bill Barkley had one little question here. Gary, next time he works on a Playboy project, ask him to invite you along. Nobody will invite me to Playboy ever, because I have a drooling problem. It's a fact. But no, it's not. It's a lie. I
Playgirl,
just simply
baby.
I like boobs. I'm a big boob guy. Anyway, and I'm kind of a boob. But Keith has to get going, so let's get the heck out of here. Tom, I want to thank you for being here. Thanks for being here, Fat Seagal, Baron, Dork, Deleted Scenes, and of course, Shanatsky. And everybody in the chat. Do we have my chat list real quick?
Super chat.
Martin, do you have my chat list?
We have a super chat from Mr. Tickletron first.
Oh, you son of a bitch. Tickle Truck always gets me like this. Always. He doesn't want the show to end. It's like, but Keith's got black guy stuff to do, and he's got to go do black guy stuff. You don't interrupt black guy stuff. I grew up
You're
in
like
that.
a stripper. He pays
So
you to
$2
around.
super chat. Comic nerd. Not all heroes wear capes, Tom. There you go. Thank you for the $2 super chat, my friend. But with that, we are the hell out of here. So your video, and thanks, is this video. Au revoir. Wrong fucking titles, Martin.
Wow.
Hey guys, thanks for watching Pop Culture.
That was
Monday.
all Gary, not Martin.
No, it was Martin. Martin
Please
did
make
that.
sure to like.
No, it was Gary,
subscribe,
because if it
and
was
don't
actually
forget to
Martin,
hit the
Gary
bell
would have been
icon
angry
for
and said,
updates
don't
on
touch
the
it.
shows and
Yeah.
channel.
You can
Also,
also tell
please
Gary
leave a
is lying by
comment
the
and we'd like to
highness in
know
his
what you thought
voice.
of the
It's just
episode, as
denying
well as letting us know
Can I leave a
if there's
comment
something
now?
you'd like us to
Keith
cover
might
in
have
a
done it. You know,
future
he's logged
episode.
in.
Don't forget that you can become a member of Pop Culture Minefield now.
Gary's
Make
favorite
sure to
place
visit
to
our
eat
membership
dipped is
page
denial.
and merch store at popcultureminefield.com. You
Hey,
can
can we
also find
talk
Pop Culture
over
Minefield
here?
on
Let's
have Tom
Twitter,
back.
Bill
Facebook,
Barkley.
Instagram,
There are
YouTube,
two
and
Guyver
Twitch.
Filch.
Hold on, guys. I'm talking. Brett Cohen, Cavatino Cavalrice, Cecilia, Cece, Gerald Darling, Scott Marvin, David Dillon, Half After Dollar, Griswold Mac, 70 Rock Mac, Billy Cow, King Sport Cow, Lord Saul, Monkey Steven, Rough Girl, Charlie Tucker, Zach, our good friend Kyle. Everybody have a great day.
Bye.
Pop Culture Minefield produced by Backdoor Gary.
Please check out our subsidiaries at OnlyFans and Alzheimer's.com. Where am I again?
Y'all come back now. You hear?